What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we are coming in with the finale, a true hoot and a holler, the part 3 of the Getting Pulled Over with an Ounce and No License series. This is a banger. This is probably one of my favorite stories I've told this year, honestly, and this particular episode is going to be great. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Drop a like if you do, and also hope you guys enjoy the gameplay in this one. I pretty much spend about 20 minutes of gameplay just piping kids in the mouth, dude, just taking my meat and just shoving it right to the back of their throat, dude, till it hits the little thing that hangs down that makes people puke. You know, I don't know what that thing's called. You know, like you seen in the cartoons, they poke it in the cartoon characters' mouths and they puke. You know, dude, you guys know what that thing's called. I don't. I didn't go to school, so you guys can answer that for me. But either way, that's what I've been doing this entire game. You guys are going to see me just fuck some idiots this game, except for the last guy. Last guy fucks me, but hey, sometimes for every 5 fucks, you got to get fucked, dude. I mean, what are you going to do? Either way, hope you guys enjoy. Let's dive right into it. So, part 3. Now, part 2 and part 1 will be linked in the description for those of you guys who might not be hip to what's happening here. But where we left off in the end of part 2, I had just gotten out of my court date that I had scheduled, and I went over to Kevin's house again. And now, me and Kevin had to formulate a plan to somehow get my car back, right? So I just Ubered over to Kevin's house. I hop out. I dap him up, and I waited at my mom's house for a while until he got off work that day, right? Like, it wasn't like I got off court and just went straight to Kevin's. Like, you know, I showered, I chilled a little bit, played with my dog, and then, you know, took my dog on a walk, and then I went to Kevin's, right? So, once I got to Kevin's, right, he's off work, I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, dude, what are we gonna do? Because the night prior, he stole his dad's car to pick me up from the impound lot, right? Or from the gas station adjacent to the impound lot, right? There's no way his dad was going for it, right? If he wasn't folding the first time, there's no way he's folding now after the car's been stolen once, right? So that was basically eliminated. So I'm trying to think, and I'm like, dude, this is going to be difficult because on top of the fact that, like, we can't use Kevin's dad's car, my mom can't drive me. She works literally, like, 10 hours a day, right? So she was off the table, because by the time she got off work, the impound lot was literally closed. She would have had to get off, like, 5 hours earlier than she did for us to even have time to get there, right? So that was off the table. So I'm sitting there with Kevin, and I'm like, we got to figure out who to contact, right? I'm calling people up. I call up Cody. I'm hitting up people left and right. And finally, I think to myself, I'm like, you know, if this doesn't happen today, what is the worst case scenario? Me and Kevin are trying to plan it out. And I call up the tow lot, and I ask them what the fee is per day, like, to have a car impounded there. Like, how much more would it cost me tomorrow, and how much is going to cost me right now? And at this point, I was already up to, like, $330, they said over the phone, I believe. They added on some, like, crazy $75, like, overnight after hours towing fee, which was just insane, dude. Like, could the guy not have just called a lot that was open? Like, come on, you prick fucking officer. But either way, that was probably the only tow lot in the whole, like, region, honestly. It was not a very populated area that I got pulled over at. But either way, I call the tow lot, and they tell me I'm at $330, and it's an extra $35 a day to keep the car there. And that's a lot, but that's actually not that bad for tow lots. One time I got my car impounded where it actually was $60 a day for every day the car sat on the lot, and after a week that amount increased. Like, dude, some tow lots really go crazy. This one was not that bad, and I was like one of the only, like, 3 cars in their entire little, like, impound lot that they had, right? So either way, I'm like, okay, that sounds good. So I hang up the phone. I'm like, well, if we can't find a ride today, what do we do, right? And Kevin throws out the idea. He's like, well, what if we just take an Uber? And I'm like, that's a decent idea, because there's not Uber service down there, but we could take an Uber from here where there is Uber service down to there and get dropped off, right? The problem is that but for some off chance, like, let's say for some weird reason we can't get the car out, we're just literally stranded, right? So we're like, okay, we'll probably be fine now. We have the money. Kevin has a license, so we're all good, right? So I end up looking on Uber, and the Uber ride is going to be like $190, and the Lyft ride is like $170, and I'm doing the math in my head, and I'm like, okay, if I take the Uber, it's going to be like $600. So we kind of have a risk versus reward situation here, where if I were to wait a couple days, I could save some money if I found someone to drive me, or I could just Uber, right? I could just Uber and like eat the loss and just deal with it, right? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know what to do. So the solution, of course, is cocaine, right? If me and Kevin don't know what to do, we're in a bad situation, my car is like 2 hours away, and we have nothing to do, cocaine is the answer, right? So, of course, I call up my coke guy, and I'm like, yo, dude, can you come drop off a gram to me, please? And he's like, yeah, for sure, but dude, how have you been? Because it had been a while since I bought off him, and I'm like, oh, dude, I've been great. How you been living, bro? And he's like, oh, doing well, man. Happy Thanksgiving and stuff, right? And I'm like, oh, happy Thanksgiving to you, too. Very, very cordial exchange, very friendly plug. The coke guys are always the best drug dealers, dude. Coke plugs are always just the best guys ever. But either way, so Coke Man pulls up maybe 30 minutes later, serves me a gram, and now we've got a gram of blow. And it's sitting in my pocket, right? And me and Kevin don't do any immediately. And we're still, like, making calls and brainstorming different ways to maybe go about this. And we checked out Lyft, too. And the Lyft ride down to where my car was impounded was also, like, $178. So it was a little cheaper, but still a fat, fee to pay on top of what I had yet to pay once I got to the impound lot, right? Like, I didn't necessarily have just like $700 to just piss out, Like, at this time, I just moved out. I was like, I had to just pay my security deposit. I paid for moving fees. Like, I was pretty broke at this point. So, like, I really had to pull some strings and, like, cut it thin to afford doing all of this shit in my head, right? Because my initial thought in my head was, like, this is going to cost me, like, $700 by the time I'm all said and done, right? Because then I got to put gas in that fucking car and, like, oh, God, dude, this is going to cost me a lot, right? So, luckily, Kevin was a good guy. He was like, you don't got to pay me for the ride. I was like, dude, you're the man, dude. You're literally that dude, bro. Like, thank you. What a top tier homie, right? So, either way, now we're trying to figure out what to do, and we've got Coke, right? So I say to Kevin, it's getting late. It was already like, 5 or 6 o'clock. I was like, dude, we can't really do anything at this point, so I don't even know why we're tweaking about it. Like, the lot closes in 2 hours. We'd have to literally get in a car and go right now to get my car, right? And he's like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, well, let's just get fucking geeked tonight, and we'll figure it out tomorrow, right? It's $35. Man, at this point, it's costing so much. What more is it going to be, right? And my favorite part about this is how I was tight on cash, yet I still managed to grab the Coke. Man, you know what the priorities were. So either way, we decide to shift our focus on finding something to do for the night. We hit up our buddy Nathan, who was a character in the Coke Chronicles. He was the guy with a garage that everyone used to hang out and do cocaine in, right? We hit up Nathan. We're like, yo, dude, what do you want? He's like, nothing. You guys should slide. Nathan, luckily, was within walking distance. It was a decent walk, maybe like a 15-minute one, but it was a nice night. So we were like, fuck it, dude. Let's just walk over to Nathan's house. So we go over to Nathan's house. And it's only him and this other girl there who we're going to call Kelly. Kelly is another girl who I've been friends with for a decent amount of time. She kind of just comes and goes. Like, she'll just pop up at the function out of nowhere. And I'll never have any idea who, like, even, like, invited her or who she appeared with. Like, not in a bad way, but, like, she just fucking appears places, bro. So she's at Nathan's. I dap her up. I dap Nathan up. I'm like, what's going on? How are you guys doing? And we kind of sit down and just immediately kind of explain our situation. And Nathan, as far as I knew, I don't think he had a car that he was able to take, but I know Kelly did. And Kelly was all like, oh, yeah. Right off the bat, she was like, oh, yeah, I can drive you guys, right? That's no problem. Like, tomorrow morning, let's go get your car, right? And I'm like, because I offered her a little cash incentive. I was like, listen, I'll throw you like $80, I'll throw you like $80 to drive me down there. I'll smoke you out the whole ride down. I'll get you geeked tonight. Like, it'll be a fun, grand old time, right? And she's all aboard. Kelly's like, yeah. And I'm starting to think like, oh, fuck yeah, dude. Problem solved, dude. All said and done. Beautiful. So I bust out the Coke. I'm like, well, let's celebrate, right? And of course, I'm trying to kind of ration it out because it's a gram on 4 heads here. We ended up buying more later in the night because we're Coke heads. But nevertheless, we had a gram on 4 heads at this point, right? So we're all kind of getting geeked, and the night just kind of starts, right? Like, it turned out Nathan had a little bit of weed, and we ended up smoking up. Kevin had some weed. We matched. I had some weed. It was a good sesh, a good night. And we're sitting there just getting geeked and smoking and kind of just wasting weed because whenever you get geeked, weed literally is just worthless. Like, there's just really no point in smoking it unless you're like right about to go to bed and you're maybe trying to just take the edge off or something. But I don't know why you'd be so geeked you need to take the edge off right as you're laying in bed, unless you're a real fiend, a certified fiend. I've done that before, so I'm a certified fiend. But either way, so we're sitting there chilling, and the nighttime isn't too eventful, but We spent so long just smoking and talking and getting geeked. We re-upped again maybe like 3 hours in. And this time we grabbed more because more people were throwing. We re-upped again. We're doing more coke. And before you know it, it is 7 o'clock in the morning. And it's cold as fuck. And we just kind of open the garage and realize, like, oh, it's 7 a.m. and the sun is up, right? Like, we literally spent all night talking, doing coke, and smoking blunts. Like, oh shit, right? So we realize right off the bat, like, none of us are really in any condition to drive at this point because we're in that, like, just kind of, like, almost, like, burnt out, haywire, all fucked up, like, night after coke phase. We're all starting to feel tired no matter how much blow we do. Our bodies are all tingly and we're covered in a thin layer of stinky sweat. Like, listen, dude, it was time for everyone to call it. So me and Kevin, we're like, yo, we're about to dip, right? And Nathan, being a nice guy, he's like, yo, dude, I have my mom's car. I could see if I could give you guys a ride home because it's cold, right? And we're literally 2 blocks over. So we're like, oh, yeah, that'd be cool, right? So Nathan gets the keys, gives us a ride 2 blocks over, a little 2-minute car ride conversation through the neighborhood. Didn't even hit a main road, just smooth sailing through the blocks, you know? It was beautiful. He drops us off. I go back to Kevin's house, and we crash, dude. Kevin goes upstairs, knocks out. I crash on his couch, dude. We KO'd, dude. Holy fuck. And we wake up later in the day, and I don't think it hit me until the evening that, like, oh, fuck, we just overslept, and I have to pay for another day. And once that happened, I woke up around, like, maybe, like, 4 o'clock, right? Which is earlier than I would have expected. And I started kind of panicking. I'm like, oh, shit, we have to get my car back. I immediately start spamming Kelly. Not spamming her, but I hit her up. I shoot her a message. I call her after like 5 minutes when she didn't pick up. I'm like, oh shit, I'm starting to freak out. I go get Kevin. I'm like, bro, like, we got to get the car. Because like, I didn't know if she was going to be available the next day. I knew she worked and stuff. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, shit, dude. Because like, this was the only solution I saw. Like, this was it. It was do or die here, else I was going to have to do the Uber, right? So I go wake Kevin up and I'm like, bro, we gotta fucking go, right? And he's like, oh shit, right? So he immediately just throws on a jacket and gets ready and then realizes like, wait, there's nobody here. We're not going anywhere. So Kelly never wakes up, which I can't blame her. That's not her fault. We gave her cocaine all night and then sent her to bed at 7 in the morning. So I'm going to go ahead and say that was on us. But the night rolls around again. And once again, we do the same thing. We go over to Nathan's house, but this time we're not doing blow, right? We just pop in for a couple hours. Kelly's there again. Nathan's there again. We smoke up a little bit, but we don't do any blow. And we're like, all right, Kelly, are you good for tomorrow? She's like, yeah, should be around like 10 or 11 o'clock. I'm like, that's perfect timing. I could still sleep in a little bit and we'll go get it done early in the day before traffic. That's like ideal fucking timing, right? So we smoke our blunts, have our little conversation, play some PlayStation on Nathan's PS4 in the garage. He has a cool setup, kind of similar to Cody's garage, like I've described in my past stories, where he had a TV, a PlayStation, a couch, just a cool smoke sesh kind of setup, right? So nighttime rolls by. Me and Kevin don't really do anything. We go to bed pretty early, and the next day rolls around, 10 a.m. sharp. I wake up even before that. I set my alarm for like 9:30, right? I'm like, yo, Kevin, bro, let me use your shower or something when you're done with it. He's like, bet, dude, because I'm feeling grimy at this point, bro. I'm like, I just crashed on the couch after a long evening, right? Let me use your shower. Let me get ready, wake up for the day, because I was still slumped, dude. Like, I was still tired from the night before, right? So I go up in Kevin's shower after he's done, get all cleaned up, throw on some fresh clothes out of my bag of clothes. And I hit up Kelly, and she's wide awake. I Snapchat her, and she doesn't reply for like 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, shit. And I give her a call. And she picks up. She's like, oh, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, hey, you ready to go? And she's like, oh, fuck. Like, I forgot about that. But yeah, I'm ready. Like, I'll come get you right now. I'll pick up Nathan too, right? We'll make a little trip out of it. I'm like, bet. Sounds great. So she goes, picks up Nathan. And she comes and gets me and Kevin. We're ready to go. We all hop in her car. We got a couple blunts rolled up. We're ready to rumble. So we hop in the car and we ride our way down 2 hours south from where we started. We're cruising along. We're smoking. We're chatting. And we take a route that takes us off the highway because for some reason the southbound highway, there was a fuckload of construction. So we had to get off and go through like really rural, like Illinois, right? Where it's literally just state troopers and cornfields and meth. And that's it. And that's what we drove through for probably an hour and 15 to an hour and a half of this trip, right? We get over to this town And I end up bringing Kelly in with me because she's like, oh, well, I'll just go in with you. I want to go in there, right? So I'm like, all right, well, you got your license, let's go. And we also brought her in because I realized as we got there that Kevin's license was expired, so they probably wouldn't have let him get the car out, right? It expired like the month before. So Kelly had to come in and get the car out with me. So she comes in with me. I'm like, hey, I'm here to pick up the Volvo. I was the driver of it. And they're like, all right, do you have the tow sheet, right? Give them the tow sheet, typical process, you know. They ask for the money. Now, their credit card thing did not fucking work. I put my card in like 4 times and it said chip card error every time. And I was getting pissed, dude. I was like, do you guys have an ATM here? Of course they say no. I go on, I'm like, all right, I'll be right back, right? So we leave, me and Kelly leave, and I'm like, all right, we got to go to an ATM, right? So we go to this gas station. Of course, because we're in super rural Illinois, the nearest ATM is literally fucking like a 15-minute drive, right? So we drive basically across town to get to like one of the 2 ATMs in the whole area. We go in this gas station, go to the ATM, I pull my money out, right? It ended up costing me, all said and done, to get the car out a little over $400 because they added on some crazy fees. Like they added on, like they tacked on more than the $35 a day. I'm dead certain of it because I did the math in my head and I was supposed to be at like 405 or like 410 or some shit, and I paid like 440. So they cranked up a little something on there. But either way, I didn't care. I was just glad to have my car back. So I get the cash out, go back, give them the money. They throw me the keys, and of course I give them to Kelly so she can drive it off the lot, right? She drives it off the lot, and then Kelly gets back in her car, right? And Kevin hops in the driver's seat of mine. I don't really know why Nathan didn't just drive Kelly's car and Kelly just drove mine, because Kevin's license was expired either way, right? So, like, if we got pulled over, it was just going to be the same scenario over again, right? Like, maybe he would have gotten away with it, but, like, worst case scenario, probably not, right? So Kevin gets in my car, and I let him drive, because I figure, well, mine's suspended. His is just expired. And I told him, I was like, bro, if we get pulled over, listen, I swear, I promise I will pay for your ticket, dude, because I appreciate what you're doing for me. So if we get in any trouble, I'll pay for your ticket, dude. But just don't speed, all right? Hey, listen, if you're going 90 and a 70, I'm not paying your ticket. But, like, otherwise, I got you. So he's like, yeah, for sure. So we get back in my car, and we start the road trip home. And we kind of decide, let's just try to avoid highways for a little while, because we still had some weed to smoke, right? So we take a nice cruise through the rural parts of Illinois. That's actually funny. Kevin just Snapchatted me as I'm telling the story. That's funny. But either way, so we're taking a nice cruise through the rural part of Illinois, right? And we're just smoking some blunts, enjoying the ride. And we're on those kind of roads where it's the cornfield roads where there's no speed limit. Like, they just don't give a fuck, bro. They're like, dude, as long as you're on your side of the road, go as fast as you please. Because, like, there's no red lights. There's not 2 lanes. There's no one passing. Like, dude, there's nobody else on the road. If you guys know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, right? Those real rural country roads are just fun as fuck to drive on, dude. So we're pushing this Volvo to the limits, dude. We're going like 95 down one of these roads, and the whole car is just rattling, dude. Like, this little 91 Volvo 240 was not made to be pushing goddamn 95 at almost 200,000 miles, dude. It was just not made for it, but we're doing it anyways. We didn't care. Sub is bumping. We are annihilating the speakers in this car and just having a blast, smoking, cruising the way home. And we make it back safe and sound, dude. We get back up to Kevin's crib. I'm like, thank you so much, bro. I dap him up, and I hit up my mom, and I ended up spending the next couple nights at my mom's house just to kind of visit and say hello. And I went over to Chris's house and then back to my mom's house for Thanksgiving, which is kind of, I had like a dual Thanksgiving. I like said hey to Chris on Thanksgiving and his family, and I went to my Thanksgiving. So it's kind of lit. I don't know, why do I keep saying Chris? It's Cody, dude. I still use his old story nickname as if you guys don't know who he is. It's kind of funny, but hey, either way, we made it back safe and sound. It was beautiful, ladies and gents, and I still got that car in my garage right now. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this short little mini-series, and let me